everybody, welcome back to my book corner today. So something that I really want to talk about is good authors who write not so great books. And what do I mean by that exactly? Well, I just find that a lot of my favorite authors write books with not such a great of a storyline, but I still think that they're great authors. I know that that's kind of confusing, so you might be thinking, how can that be? I really believe that the storyline of a book, and this is my unpopular opinion, it's a very small percentage of a book's character. So I'm just going to start off right away by giving the example of John Green. So John Green is one of my favorite authors, and I know that it's super like teenage girl, mainstream, but some things are just mainstream for a reason, and that's because they're good. And in my opinion, John Green is one of them. So someone I know once referred to John Green's style of book as fluff. And it's like fluff literature, which I think that they meant it's no Lord of the Rings. There's not like a big storyline that you need to follow really closely. There's not a lot of characters. There's not a whole new universe that you need to keep track of. And so I definitely think that that's what they meant by fluff. It's kind of something that you can just like read and be laid back. You don't have to think too hard. You don't have to put a lot of effort into it. If you don't know who John Green is, I'm really going to give you a few examples of his work. So, large spoiler alert. If you have not read these books and you do plan on reading them, just skip ahead about 2 minutes into this video. So, every girl's heartthrob, The Fault in Our Stars. Basically, this book is about a girl who has cancer. She meets a boy who had cancer, and they start hanging out and falling in love in the way that teenagers do. They read a book about cancer, and they're mad about the ending. John Green, if you're familiar with him, loves sad endings, so it's only fitting that he would write about a book that has a sad ending. So anyways, they go to Amsterdam, they meet the author, they pick his brain. Turns out that the author is a drunk. So they go home, they're disappointed, and then they find out that the boy has cancer, and then he dies. So that pretty much sums up the whole entire book. The second book, and give you a plot summary of, is Paper Towns. I don't even really know what this book is about, to be honest. There's a boy, and his neighbor, who is a girl, used to be his friend when they were younger, but now she's popular, so she ignores him, and basically she's just a huge bitch, honestly. One night, she gets mad at her popular friends because they screwed her over, so she convinces her loser neighbor to go on this adventure with her where she basically messes up everyone's lives who messed with her. And really, she just kind of uses him for his car because she doesn't have a car. And so he goes on this adventure with her, and then she runs away the next day. And he's like madly in love with her, so he follows all these clues that he thinks she left him. And then he ends up going on a road trip, missing his graduation, to find her. And he finds her in this random place that's not on a map. It's a paper town. And basically he's like, hey, I found all the clues that you left for me. And she said, oh, I was never really thinking that you were actually going to follow those. She basically kind of just says, fuck you, and kind of screws him over. But then no, she kind of was like, oh yeah, let's how about you stay with me? And then he just decides to go home. So you might wonder why John Green is one of my favorite authors, when you find out that his plots are kind of not so great. For me, it's the fact that he can take a storyline that might be fluff, and he can make it dense with his writing. So let's look at a few of my favorite quotes from these books now. You can love someone so much, but you can never love people as much as you can miss them. Here's another quote. This one's from Paper Towns. Look at all those cul-de-sacs, those streets that turn in on themselves, all the houses that were built to fall apart, all those paper people living in their paper houses burning the future to stay warm, all the paper kids drinking beer some bum bought for them at the paper convenience store, everyone demented with the mania of owning things. All the things paper thin and paper frail, and all the people too. I've lived here for 18 years, and I have never once in my life come across anyone who cares about anything that matters. I mean, if that is not how everyone feels about their hometown that they grew up in, then I guess John Green is just reading into my soul. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that most of the best books are actually not that great of books, but they're amazingly executed by genius authors. And what makes an author a good author, in my opinion, is the ability to say things in a way that everyone else can relate to, but no one else can find the right words to say. And that is why John Green gets my vote, for sure. So, the last book that I will mention that fits under the fluff category that we've been talking about is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. I probably butchered that last name, but more spoilers, so beware. Basically, this boy is writing on his typewriter that his friend gave to him about his high school experiences. We know that this kid is kind of weird. We don't really know why, but he makes their friends at school. They're also kind of weird. Two of them, in particular, a brother and a sister, become kind of his best friend. He falls in love with the girl, but the book really isn't about that. It's not a love story. He starts hanging out with these friends, and they have some serious life problems, but you know that they don't really care what other people think about them, and they're just living their life. So anyways, a lot of stuff actually happens in this book. It's a very detailed book, but basically we find out at the end that the kid, the main character, Charlie, his anxiety relates back to when he was a child and was molested by his aunt. So, really dark stuff there, Stephen. But the plot actually isn't that boring. It's kind of a breakfast-style storyline of the underdog, but it's still a fluff book in the sense that you can read it once. The characters really aren't that complicated. It's something that everybody can relate to. You don't really have to think that hard. It's not a difficult concept. But let's follow suit and look at some of the great quotes from this book. So I guess we are who we are for a lot of reasons, and maybe we'll never know most of them. But even if we don't have the power to choose where we come from, we can still choose where we go from there. We can still do things, and we can still try to feel okay about them. Do I even really need to comment on this one? I don't think so. I think we really need a moment of silence. Okay, I hope that you had time to absorb. Another quote from the same book. I am very interested and fascinated how everyone loves each other, but no one really likes each other. Well, I don't know about you, but that's pretty much my personality in a nutshell. So, basically my conclusion today is that I hope that I've convinced you, too, that if you're trying to write and you're stuck on a storyline, or you feel like your topic is just too simple, don't worry. The important thing is how you tell the story. Not necessarily that the story is, not necessarily what the story is on the surface, but it's the wording. It's how you execute the entire message that you want to get across. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in to the Book Corner, and we'll see you next time.